What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Coffee and Jesus podcast. My name is Brandon. Today, as you can see, it is a little different than our normal setup. We had a little vacation, and we're down here in PCB, just kind of just kicking it with the fam and just having a good time. Just I'm in the middle of transitioning jobs, so it's pretty cool that we got the opportunity to just get a break for a minute. So yeah, so today I thought it was appropriate, right? As I'm here, and this view is like is out of this world, right? It really is. Last night we were sitting right here at the window, just looking out as a sunset, and for the first time in my life, I don't know about you guys, but me and Hannah were standing here looking out and was watching the sun just kind of like just bury behind the horizon. And that is the coolest thing ever. I don't know if you guys have ever done that, but I'm 28 years old and I've never ever seen that in my life. So that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Um, but I thought it was appropriate to just talk about his creation, right? If you look, it's just immaculate, right? It's immaculate of what this scene, like, how that makes you feel. Like, the words I can use is like only limited. I think it's pretty cool that I can just sit here and I can hear the waves in my background, and it's just like God created all of that. Like that's wild. That is so crazy. And I just want to touch base on his creation, right? In Genesis, the first 7 days or the first 6 days he created everything, every living thing, every planet in the solar system, every star in the sky, um, every water molecule that is making up the ocean. That's wild. There are there are questions people say like, is water wet? And this is a funny thing, but technically, in my opinion, I think water molecules are wet because it's water molecules touching other water molecules. Whatever. But no, I think I look at it like just the detail that God had, and the detail that is in not even just like the beach, right? But in your body, just every neuron, every single cell that's in your body is just like it's crazy to think that people believe it just like happened, right? Creation just occurred, like there's no creator. That is so like I feel like every day when I wake up, I look out and I'm just reminded of like there is a creator. There's clearly a creator, and it's amazing because the Bible tells us that that God knows every hair on our head, right? And this, I look at it like this, like that's not the only thing that he knows is he knows exactly how many pieces of grain of sand is on this planet, and if you just hold a handful of it, if you just hold a handful of sand, like in your hand, you're probably holding like a million, right? Or I don't know. I could be wrong, depending on how big your hand is. I have no idea. But I think it's crazy to think that God had so much detail and things that are not really like relevant, I guess. I think it's amazing that God created this scene. It's just a place where people kick back and relax, and I'm so thankful that we get to visually see his creation, and just like as I'm here today, I get to just look at it and just be thankful for it, and I get to enjoy the scenery, and it's peaceful, right? And that kind of brings me to my next point is um a lot of times in worship, right? At least in the church that I'm at now. I know back in the day, the older school churches, like, worship would go on, and, lights would be on, and it just a bunch of stuff going on at the same time. And at the time, that's great. That's amazing. But the churches nowadays, if you notice, they'll turn the lights off. And my question is like, okay, well, why? And a lot of times, I think people will perceive it as, well, we're turning the lights down so that nobody can, be distracted. And I get that. But I think in my mind, it's setting the atmosphere. It sets the atmosphere for worship. And in the same scene here is the waves are crashing in the background. The sand is just like just berries in your toes, right? I think it's just setting the scene. Sets the scene of relaxation and just chill vibes. And everybody needs that. Everybody needs time to just slow down, chill out. And I was having this conversation with Hannah earlier in the car, because we were like, yeah, we'd love to live at the beach. Like honestly, who wouldn't? But it's like I don't want to move somewhere that's like my vacation spot, because then I'm like, well, then where's my vacation? The beach would just be so accustomed, and that's how I want to look at this. I want to view sin as not a vacation per se, but maybe for your flesh. And I love how God works, but if you remain in that environment and if you remain in that scenery, it becomes too accustomed and it's not like you don't notice it, right? And the problem is we have become so accustomed to sin. We have become so close and just we're living in it too long. The issue is we're not noticing that we're even in sin. We're around it so much, and I think that's crazy that this world has come that far. Is we live in sin and we don't even know it, right? You live at a vacation spot, you don't even know it because you live there, you reside there. Anybody that does live on the beach listening, you may know when you plan a vacation, you're probably not going to go to the beach because you live at the beach, right? I mean, I could be wrong about that, but I think if it was me, I would not want to go visit a place that I'm already used to, that I already see every single day. And if sin is something that you're seeing every day, when sin does make way in your life, it's just going to seem like a normal routine. It's just going to seem like part of the view, right? So how do we conquer that? Like how do we get out of sin? How do we get out of that and that comfortable environment of sin that we reside in spiritually? And honestly, it's reading his word, and I know that's so much easier said than it is done, but reading his word is so crucial, and anywhere that God is, the enemy isn't. And I love that so much because at times when I'm dealing with something, I'll want to just call on the name of Jesus, right? Because I'm dealing with something and I don't have the words per se. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to pray. How do I pray over this situation? And a lot of times I just have to say Jesus, 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 because in my mind I'm knowing, and in my heart I know that where Jesus is, the enemy isn't. And sin is separate from Christ. And I want to reflect Jesus. I want to be the mirror of Christ. And we all need to, as Christians, we need to represent Jesus as if we are his reflection. It's not easy. We are not perfect. We will never be perfect. But that doesn't give you the reason to just not try, right? It doesn't give you the reason to just give up and just cave and live into sin because, well, I know I'm never going to be perfect. That doesn't matter. It's not even that. It's the gesture of, I know I'll never get there, but God, I want to get as close to it as possible. And the closer we are to Christ, the better off we're going to be. I mean, I feel like the world has joy, per se, that, that's temporarily like it satisfies you. But in this scenario here, Jesus has something to offer that's not like, it's just not like everything else. The water that he gives you is not just a water to quench your thirst here, but to eternally quench your thirst, to forever. You'll never thirst again. I love that. I love that story of Jesus coming to, and Jesus being a Jew coming to the Samaritan woman and knowing at that time they did not communicate. Jews and Samaritans did not communicate. So when this woman went to the well for water and Jesus, a Jew, speaking to her, first off, in her head, she's probably thinking, red flag. We don't speak to Jews. Why are you even coming at me? Why are you telling me this? And then Jesus telling her, I can give you a water that will quench your thirst forevermore, right? And she's thinking in her head, she's probably going like, okay, well, well, God, I have water here. Like, this will be fine. He's like, no, what, you're not getting it. I have a water that is going to quench the thirst of not your flesh, but your spirit. Your spirit. And I think it took a few times before she finally realized the kind of water that he was referring to. And I think that's how we are. We're stubborn and we want to think on the physical aspect of it. But there's so much more going on behind the scenes. There is a constant battle between our flesh and our spirit. And how do we feed our flesh is caving into sin and living as the world would intend us to live. But feeding our spirit consists of us reading our word, praying, fasting, seeking out Jesus and living for him, living for Christ. And I love how Jesus is always there to accept us back, even after we've been through so much. Just like the story of the prodigal son. He left and done his thing, right? Even though he had been doing his thing for so long and living how he thought he should live. And then he come back with open arms. His father, open arms, welcomed him and gave him all of these things, all of these riches as far as clothing and sandals on his feet and like just right, like bling bling, you know? God's the same. Like we're that prodigal son that no matter how far off we go and no matter how far away we stray away from Christ, he is always there to accept us and to draw us in. And I love how Jesus is so merciful towards us. We're so undeserving of his grace and his love, you know? I mean, a love so divine that, I mean, Jesus, if you really think about this, Jesus died on a cross. Really think on this. Like, I just, like, close your eyes and picture this. A man that you did not know died on the cross and took the punishment and the shame that you battle with, the stuff that you deserve, and he took all that and he died. He died for your sins. He died so that you wouldn't have to bear that punishment, not even knowing who you were. But ultimately he did. He knew who you were. He knew the struggles that you deal with. He knows the current struggle that you're dealing with. But he is just like the father and the prodigal son. He is open arms welcoming you to come home. He will never, never turn his cheeks on you, never turn away from you. He loves you. He loves you with a love that is just not like you can physically express, right? I love my children. I love my wife more than I can express. And I can't even fathom the kind of love that I have for my kids, how there's a love greater than that. Any parent should, like, that y'all can relate to that. Your children and your wife or your husband is that kind of love that there's nothing that tops that, right? In our flesh, that's what our carnal minds think. But God is so divine. God is so sufficient. He is so graceful and merciful and loving and just endearing and always seeking after us. I'm so thankful that God has saved my life and so thankful, and I am not perfect at all. I struggle every day, but I'm so thankful that God gives me that desire to push through it and to not judge myself for my sin, right? And I think I did that for a very long time. On a previous episode, I talked about my testimony, and I would judge myself, and I would tell myself, like, you don't deserve that because of the nonsense you did, right? God's love isn't enough for me. I told myself that all the time, and that led to a very dark place in my life. I felt the need to take things and just live how I wanted, and it is never gonna be enough. This world doesn't offer enough. This scene is beautiful, but it's not enough. The alcohol tastes good, but it's not enough. Marijuana makes you feel good. It's not enough. Pills make you feel good. It's not enough. All of these things we battle with on a daily. It is never, ever too much for God to let go. And just he wants you. I mean, that's really where I'm trying to get at is he wants you. And a creator that created such a beautiful scene like this and created everything on this planet that just we can physically see with our eyes, the same God that created that wants you. Same God that created all of these beautiful animals, right? How many people have pets? I have two dogs. Lord bless them. Them things are, them dogs are wild, man. And I get so frustrated with them sometimes. But I do. I love them to death. And the same God that created that beautiful soul in those animals and the scenery of the ocean and the sand or even the mountains. And I know there's so many other places that are just so mind-blowing if you actually can see it in person. The same God that created that created you and wants a relationship with you. That's amazing. That is so amazing that I feel like if somebody created something like that, he's too busy for me, right? I'm a nobody. But I encourage that everybody that hears this to just slow down for a bit. Just slow down and just take it in, right? Enjoy the view. And I'm not even talking physically, right? Enjoy the view. Enjoy the love that Jesus does have for you because it's there. Just enjoy that. Soak that in and just lean on Jesus. So, I hope that somebody is encouraged today. And I know this is kind of shorter. I know it's like not even 20 minutes long, but I just want to encourage you guys and tell y'all that I'm so thankful for each and every one of you guys, and somebody else is too. And if it's not a person physically, it's God above, right? So I love you guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for just always listening, and yeah, I'm so thankful and grateful to see what this where this goes. So just tune in next week, man. I got another episode dropping. Super stoked about it. I'm not even going to talk about what it is yet because it's going to be a surprise. LOL. Have you guys ever used acronyms out loud? It's kind of embarrassing, but I do it sometimes because God made me different. But I love you guys. Thank y'all for tuning in, and I'll see y'all next week. Peace out.